can't breathe. Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I got stuff to do today, man. What are you
I got
doing?
something to do for you. Survive.
Survive. Survive. Survive.
Go outside. I stay away from everybody. I order my groceries delivered. I'm ready to lock down for 5 weeks. I'm like, this is the most simplistic and individual perception of this problem, that everyone should do what you're capable of doing. That most people can't do this if they have a fucking business. Like, they can't. I'm ready to lock down.
Most of the people who say we shouldn't shut down and do your own thing are the ones who only do talk shows or the phone work the car. Right. Yeah. Yeah. The only people who say we shouldn't shut down. Jim Jordan posted some dumb shit like that. Jim Jordan posted some dumb shit like that. And he's still going off about it. And the left gives him an award as if the left is owned by the... Yo, it's always the left. The radical left! The radical left. It's always the radical left, bro. It's always the left, bro. I'm getting tired of, like, how are you a representative? How? How do you exist? How does this human being exist? It's always the people that are comfortable that say don't shut down. Like, you don't understand that, like, when you're sitting at a diner and your server comes up, right? Like, oh, they want to give everybody the money. They want to take it away from the rich and give it to the poor. It's literal fear. It's literal fucking fear that, oh, if we start giving people money, they might notice that, oh shit, wow, we did have that. Why don't we do this more often just to meet people's basic needs? And maybe if we meet people's basic needs, they won't have contempt when big things happen like that. I fucking hate Jim Jordan, bro. I hate Jim Jordan with a passion. I hate people who think like that. Because it's not necessary. It's not necessary. Sorry, guys, I'm going to end up in a pit hole. Let me stay on topic.
Down for 5 weeks. Well, congratulations to you. But some guy who runs some figure out whatever store it is or whatever kind of business, they need to be there in order to be open, to stay alive. There's no other way to keep that business alive.
Unless you give people the money to be able to function perfectly in a way where they can close that business and not worry about it being shut down forever or closed forever. And the answer is pretty obvious. Any loans, just move anything that's owed to the back end of the loan and forgive 3 to 6 months. And then when things open up, you're still going to get your money, you greedy fucking like suckers. You're still going to get your fucking money, but move it to the back end of the loan, push everybody's loans, push everybody's owed debts onto the back end of the loan. I'm going to pay 3 months longer than I thought I was going to, but at least now I won't be fighting for it. Like, it's not hard. This is not, okay. So when it comes to political parts like this, and this is why I say always a different take on humanity, when it comes to shit like this, like, yo, you cannot sit here in front of me and say we don't have a solution to this. We do. It's the people that are there that just want their money. It's the people that are there that realize if the engine stops, there's nothing that's stopping them from realizing that we've been like toiling them in a system for years, if not decades, if not centuries, to make them work for us, and we reap the benefits of their rewards. I'm not against hard work and building something for yourself, but if we're talking about a shutdown in which people literally can't work because the government mandates, oh, your place of business drags in, 40 to 50 people, a nightclub. Let's take a nightclub, for example. You're getting 100, 200 people given $20. Without that money, how are you going to survive? Move their shit to the back end, shut it down, give them a small amount of money to be able to survive on their own. You could push rents back. You could push liabilities for home ownership back. there is nothing stopping us from saying we're just halting this right now. When everything gets started back up again, we'll literally just move everything as it was, and we'll still be in the same system, but at least people won't be buried in mountains of debt. No, they don't want that. They don't want that. You know why they don't want that? Because they know that the moment you realize that they could do that, oh, so why didn't you do that when I was struggling with $400 to my name? Like, I could get really pissed about this because at the end of the day, what ends up happening is that the little man gets screwed. The little man gets fucked every single time. And the people who are living in these mansions, the people who already have money stashed away, the people who have money in the bank and are accruing interest, they're not hurt by it because the system that is being stopped is not hurting anybody but the people that don't have the protections on top of them already to deal with it. Because who could have seen that coming? The people with $4 million in the bank right now aren't worried about where their groceries and rent are coming from. They already paid for their house. They already paid for somebody to deliver that to them. They already have multiple streams of revenue. Now, you could say everybody needs multiple streams of revenue, but the more people you inject into it, the less money that can be gained from it. That is just a basic fact of how capitalism works, which is why you have industries and why we had the Sherman Antitrust Act. Like, this is not hard. This has never been difficult in any situation that we've ever faced in the United States, and yet for some reason we're still repeating, dragging our feet over and over and over and over again, trying to have the same discussion about the same thing over and over and over again till somebody finally listens to us and decides to say at some point in time, hey, maybe this system isn't working out for us. Maybe we could develop a system that works for everybody so that way in the case of a time where we can't let people find the means of their own production, we're not leaving them out to literally die. But Lord be me if I have to have this argument multiple times on like the easiest thing to grasp.
They have rent, they have overhead, they have employees.
Do you know the history of the 1918-1919 influenza epidemic? That's the worst pandemic that we know of in our modern history, and that's only 100 years ago. And 50 million people died worldwide. I mean, how many people died worldwide in COVID? A couple million at this point. And the population was 4 times greater then. They didn't shut anything down back then.
What do you mean the population was 4 times greater then?
No, it's 4 times greater now than then. It was 25%. It was 1.8 billion people back 100 years ago across the world.
So you could scale that up pretty largely.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a killer that didn't just take people with comorbidities. It took children. It took healthy adults. It was non-discriminatory disease. And we took precautions, people, social distanced, but at the end of the day, the economy did not shut down. Humanity went on with their lives. And this is not nearly the same type of pandemic that we had back then. It's very interesting the time that we live in, the reaction that we're having today to COVID being so very different than the reaction we had to the influenza epidemic of 1918 and 1919, which was far more destructive. It's I don't know, it's just food for thought. It's very interesting.
Well, what was the difference? What's the difference in the reaction of today versus the reaction from 1918?
The reaction back then was individual responsibility to do what was necessary to protect yourself and your family.
Wrong. We had the same strong-armed we had the same strong-armed facet of how we view life. We had the same people still saying, get back to work, this is stupid. Like, we had the same response as we do now. And it's even worse because we have social media where literally every grifter gets to voice their own opinions.
But other than that, life went on. And there was no governmental, not nearly the same level of...
They had mask mandates, though, didn't they?
If you go back and read about it, not any kind of national type of mask mandate. Certain small communities did it.
Okay, while it's true that there was no national mask mandate, people were literally getting shot if you weren't wearing a mask. People were getting beat up because you weren't wearing a mask. It was much more serious back then. People took it serious because it was killing people at a higher rate than it is now. Fair enough. I'll be gracious on that. But to act like there wasn't a national need for it and there weren't societies setting up because people weren't listening to the advice and guidelines, like, you're dumb. It was national. We all said at one point or another, like, we have to take this seriously.
It was just all so much smaller in scale.
I didn't even know they wore masks. We've been looking at it because we've been looking at a lot of photos from back in the day. It's kind of crazy to see.
Because they did.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
They wore plague doctor masks at one point, like the big nose ones.
people were scared and they wanted to protect themselves and their family, and they did what they thought was necessary. It's just interesting how much different we're reacting to this one, to me. And we are.
It's not different. We had the same diatribe. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting annoyed because it's like you're the Whole Foods founder and you can't figure this shit out. Like, that's how out of touch with reality a lot of these like old like CEOs are. And that's why they continue to practice the same business practices that are hurting people every single day.
We are doing great harm, and we don't see the harm that we're doing. We don't see the small businesses failing, the suicide rates going up, the domestic violence, the isolation, the mental or emotional health problems people have by not being able to connect with each other, not being able to physically touch.
Yeah.
The kids that are missing out in school and in person. That speaking as a man who was once a little boy, little boys need to play. They also need to connect. They can't just watch a screen.
Yeah, kids.
But Twitch is one of the biggest avenues for kids. Can't just watch a screen. But when I was a teacher, I still am a teacher. When I was in schools before they closed, that's all they did. It was very hard for students to interact with one another because it was all about, like, what game are you playing? What thing are you on? Like, kids were more interested in the fact that I was a Twitch streamer than my accomplishments as a human being outside of, like, technology. Like, I tell my kids I was training for the Olympics, and they're like, really? But you Twitch stream and you beat this person in a game? Like, you're lying. That's old rhetoric. Yeah, kids need to go out and play. Kids need to understand the environment. Kids need to connect with one another. True. But at the same point, you're lying if you're telling me that a lot of what we do now in society for children is not tech-based, is not screen-based. They do that a lot already. They do that more often than not. And it shapes the culture that they interact with other people on. Like, you're lying to me. You're lying to me.
I've
They need to be more interactive.
Two kids in school right now, and it's soul-sucking watching them stare at a laptop. Yeah. And then I sat in.
I know he's going to say it because I just read this comment down there.
In my daughter's room once and watched the teacher teach the class, and Jesus Christ, this lady could have not been less motivated. It was horrible to watch.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why are teachers less motivated to teach on a screen than they are in person? It's because of the disconnect. They know that the kids aren't interested because there's a fucking pandemic going on. So far be it from me to like shout it out to you and scream to you, hey, maybe, just maybe, what you're doing and how you're feeling right now aren't the things that you should be worried about. But
motivating or motivated. They're
It's lack of funding, lack of higher pay. I have to do all this stuff and I have to absorb all this content and shove it to these kids in a way that they're not interested in. So the point I'm trying to make here is you're going to talk about teachers and how they're unmotivated, but what about online classes for college kids? How do you think they feel? How do you think adults feel taking college classes online? How do you think that paradigm, sorry I have to use the word here, how do you think that paradigm worked for us before this? Are you that, like, not unique? Are you that oblivious to what's going on in this world that you would say, oh, I watched my kids teach and that shit was, like, terrible or that shit was, like, bad? And I'm just like, but you have to think, a lot of teachers weren't equipped to do online lessons. Adjunct professors generally do online lessons because they understand and they're generally, and I say this importantly, generally young enough to adapt to, okay, I'm giving an online lesson, let me make this content fun and accessible for the students that I'm teaching while also trying to get them a college degree. You're shoving that onto the K through 12 prospect now, and online classes can't be a thing anymore once COVID is over. See, we're not talking about it And how do we integrate this into society so it doesn't hurt us again? We're talking about it like, nah, that's you. That's your place in society. That's how you're going to be.
They're lazy.
Well, hopefully these vaccinations are going to be as effective as they're reporting and will not have side effects, and that a year from now this will be in the rearview mirror.
Episodes.
Hey, he's fucking stupid. He's so stupid. But we're going to keep going.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
This message, is this something that you have sort of developed over the years of arguing with people about it?
No, it's mostly from what we did at Whole Foods, because I had no background in business, right? I'm an entrepreneur.
You guys started here, right?
In Austin, that's right. My first store here over 42 years ago now.
Jesus, you look great. How old are you?
67.
You look very good.
Well, thank you,
I'll tell you right now.
See, look,
You're
win-win-win.
holding up
We're a
well.
win-win relationship.
You're eating
here.
all that Whole Foods foods.
I'm eating all that healthy Whole Foods.
That is one thing that you guys did do that's very interesting, right? You created a market where, like, if you tell people I go to Whole Foods, you know, people are like, oh, well, you care about your health. Like, it's synonymous with healthy foods, even in the name, Whole Foods.
That was our brand when we were up and comer, and then when we got really rich. America loves the up and comer, but then once you have become really successful and you're making a lot of money, they start to turn on you.
Oh no!
Well, we became Whole Paycheck.
Who said that?
I don't know, but whoever did, I wish they.
I never saw it. I never saw that until right now. You just shit on yourself in a way that I never. All I heard was Whole Foods. I never heard Whole Paycheck.
Then your team didn't do good research.
I have no team. So is this when you sold to Amazon?
No, the Whole Paycheck thing has been around for a long time.
Oh, because Whole Paycheck meaning because it's so expensive.
Yes, because initially when we were up and comer, if you shopped at Whole Foods, you were showing everybody you were with it.
Environmentally conscious.
Yes, and you were hip and cool.
No, what you were see, like, he's so disconnected from his own company. No, when people started shopping at Whole Foods, the diatribe was that you had enough money to be able to afford the better quality stuff that would may be more healthier in the long run. But you started opening up shit like Whole Foods in Harlem, and you really expected me to, like, vibe with that in some form of fashion where I was gonna, like, agree with that. It took them a long time to even give up. It took a long time for Whole Foods to even accept EBT. And that was a telling tale right there. You had these Whole Foods opening up in places where people made $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month. Like, don't give me that shit about how it was about healthier food or whatever. It was never accessible to poor people. It still isn't accessible to poor people, but more poor people are going there now because they accept EBT. Like, I can't sugarcoat this enough. I can't even begin to put this in a form where I can safely say, oh, this happened here and that happened here. No. He knew what was happening. I assume that he knows what's happening. But he's also super disconnected from his own, whole gentrifier. Literally a whole gentrifier.
And then the narrative went sour because it's like, you're a fool for shopping there because you can get the same food cheaper elsewhere. So you're going to Whole Paycheck. So the narrative turned negative, so to speak. I still see that pretty much all the time, although since our merger with Amazon, we've cut our prices many, many times.
How'd you do that?
Amazon allowed Whole Foods to think long-term again. We needed to cut our prices, but when you're a public company, if you're selling something for $1 and you say, you know what, we need to sell this for 90 cents, and you start selling it for 90 cents, in the short run, you just cut your sales 10% because you're not selling any more of it. Over the long term, people will realize, man, I can get a good deal for 90 cents. I used to pay $1 for it. And they start to shop with you more, and your sales will go up.
Oh, look at the paradigm. That's the paradigm. The version in which you realize that the lower you go, the more you can gravitate more people to buy your product. Boycott Chappelle. So sorry that you are just now tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the 1 hour and 30-minute mark, so I must remind you, if you are new to the stream, please do me a favor and hit that follow button. It literally costs nothing to help support a small creator, and at the same time, when we do make it to affiliate, if you don't mind giving your Twitch Prime subscription or a Tier 1 subscription, I wouldn't mind that at all. But in the same set, if you are new to the stream, we talk about politics and life issues in a way that is very, very adjustable and consumable to the general person. You do not need a political science degree to understand anything of which I talk about. So if you like the content that you hear, please follow me on Twitter, Facebook. Stop that. That's coming on the stream. Great. There goes the VOD. Or subscribe to the YouTube. We upload daily. We have content from the stream coming daily, as well as off-stream topics, gameplay, and more. But in the interest of talking about what we just talked about, so in boycotting Chappelle's show, so basically they're not paying him to stream his content. So he asked Netflix to take it down, and Netflix did in response. And it was a very cool thing that we noticed. But other companies are still streaming it. So what he's kind of hoping for is that people boycott it so they understand that they can not treat creators like this. And I went into a very, very long discussion about content creators and how we're at the will and mercy of a contract that we signed by just literally signing up to Twitch, signing up to YouTube, signing up to any other program that we do, and how we think the things that we own are not actually owned by us. And I feel like we should develop a system in which led me to UBI. But besides that, I'm not going to rehash that content for now. You can easily check that out on the VOD clip YouTube. But that's the meaning of the title. Basically, it's Dave Chappelle asking us not to watch that because until they pay him his deserved amount, he should absolutely be the recipient of the monetary compensation that he deserves. And until he gets that monetary compensation that he deserves, we're not going to give corporations the right nor the leisure of being able to just steal somebody's content and merely drag that onwards. If you are new to the stream again, please hit the follow button. It literally costs nothing for you to give me a follow. It does help out in the long run. I can actually make money and give my family the life that they deserve. You know, monetary stuff. If you feel like the content is something that you're vibing with and that you like, please do me a favor and hit the donation. We love it the most. You literally have no goals. The donation is simply $1. But if you're feeling like you don't want to donate, just share the stream with somebody who you think would vibe with it. I'm here for the vibes.
When you're a public company and the market's very short-term oriented, you pay a heavy price in the short term for reducing your prices. And Amazon is willing to think long-term and let Whole Foods do that.
Because Jeff Bezos got that long money, son.
He has long money because he's had a lot of brilliant ideas and put together a pretty good team.
Yeah, what keeps that guy working? When you have 150 in the bank, 150 billion, what keeps you going?
Well, most of it he doesn't have it in the bank. He's got it in stock.
Probably got a few in the bank.
He's got a few in the bank, probably.
I feel like he could probably relax.
I mean, I think the same thing that keeps me going at age 67. I mean, building something is great fun. Building Whole Foods, I've got plenty of money, Joe. I don't need to work. I just like it. It's fun.
He said the thing. He said the thing. A capitalist just said a socialist demand. Oh my God. It's like, it's so easy. How do you just literally negate what you just fucking said? So if you guys are just tuning in now, we just watched a video on this guy talking about how UBI would be a bad idea because it reduces, or COVID lockdowns would be a bad idea because it drops the. Oh man. So don't ask what's in the cup. The stream froze. Did the stream freeze? I feel like the stream froze. I feel like the stream froze. I feel like it just froze. Give me a second. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. I'm going to fix that. There we go. There we go. Much better. Much better. Much better. Fixed it already? That was easy. See, I like to have fun. The party is going here. We moving again, absolutely. Don't ask what's in the fucking cup. Anyway, so he made this argument that like COVID lockdowns are terrible or like bad because they don't. Whatever he said, it was some dumb shit. You can read the chat if you really want to know what was happening because Lobe Foster was doing a great job at telling me or giving you the rundown on how stupid his fucking argument was. But he just made the argument that I've been making this entire time. How do you make this much money building Whole Foods? Oh, I don't need the money. I don't need to work, but I like it. So if you like the product and you like making money from the product that you worked for, then why aren't you giving your employees the same thing? It's ridiculous, man.
Still run Whole Foods? Like,
It's
what's your relationship
ridiculous.
there?
Still CEO.
Still CEO. So you still
Still
work
CEO, but he could sit down and like not at all like be responsible for any of the things that he's creating or any of the things that he's like involved in, but he still rakes in the money.
long hours.
I don't work as long today as I did when I was in my 20s and 30s. There's no question about it because I was putting a lot of 80-hour weeks in year after year after year after year. Well, you're building something. You know, it wasn't work. It was play.
Yeah.
I was having a blast. It was fun.
Elon Musk has famously said that if you're in a tech startup and you're not working 120-hour weeks, you won't succeed.
Yeah. I've never been in a tech startup, so I can't speak for that. The grocery business wasn't quite that hard, but we did put a lot of 80-hour
That
weeks
seems like not a lot of time to sleep.
in. And I'm a great believer in sleep. Sleep is how you...
Like, how many hours are left? How many hours are in a week?
Well, let's see. There's 24 hours, 168 hours a week.
168
He's only got
hours a
48
week?
hours to sleep.
That is ridiculous, Elon.
So
How
that's
dare you?
well, I don't know. If you all you did was that's 48 hours divided by 7. That's almost 7 hours a night. If all you did was work and sleep, I don't know when he eats. Maybe you have to eat when you're
You definitely
working.
have to eat. I would
when you're
recommend.
working.
So, see, this goes back into our, even if he retains like 20% of the company's bloodline, never has to work again. Thanks to Bezos. Yeah, they help each other out. 2 families are set for life, while millions of families are literally stretched so thin that the majority of their employees need public assistance. You're telling me that we can't turn that public assistance into a general need for UBI? Like, you're kidding me when we talk about paradigm shifts, and we're not talking about the paradigm shift in the regards of how we live as a society and how we clearly have set certain people up to continue to rake in wealth. So much so that, all right, it's time for the infinite pool theory. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to say is going to hurt feelings. And I'm directing this at Mitch McConnell and the rest of you fucking like assholes that just live off of our money and our work and our like labor. Here we go. There is a finite amount of There is a finite amount of money that exists in the world. Let's say in the United States, the amount is $10 trillion. It's more than that. Side note, it's actually less than that, but for the sake of argument, we're going to say that we own our debts enough to make $10 million. So there's a finite amount of money in the United States, around $10 trillion. If 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 or 30, if a majority of the people who own that wealth are less than 1% or the 1%, and you've heard this before. You've heard this before about the 1%. If there are enough people that own a decent chunk of that, that the rest is split amongst the entire population, you literally cannot achieve success if you are not pumping money back into the economy. Because those people can't spend that money fast enough to push it into the economy. So you might have heard of this as trickle-down economics, but this is a bigger form of that, in which we talk about the circle of economic dynamics. So the circle of economic dynamics should be where everybody starts out at the same point. Some people will obviously grow wealth faster than others, but generally, if the people who grow wealth faster than others spend it quicker and in the same velocity as people who don't make that much, all of their funds will eventually meet at the middle point. So we've only talked about a quarter of the circle. After everybody meets their means at the quarter circle, the money gets dispersed out into communities and society, cities and states in a way where everybody's basic needs are met, and they will spend that money accordingly to meet all of what they're trying to make by the second half of the circle. So now we meet the half. The money that's made or spent in the second half of this circle gets to the billionaires, the millionaires, the people who are entrepreneurs, the people who start up these businesses who employ people, and then that money gets spread out amongst their employees, and the circle continues on and on and on. The problem that we have is that the billionaires have so much of that circle that it's no longer a piece of the circle, but it's like 75% of the circle. So now they're keeping that money and they can't offload it fast enough. And because they can't offload it fast enough, it becomes dead money. The velocity of their dollar does not have the same velocity as a poor person's. If I have $100 to my name and I spend $1, that dollar goes crazy ways before it ever comes back to me. People with billions of dollars can spend $1 and it doesn't go as far as they ever could imagine because they're spending it in places where the effect doesn't have the same effect in the same places. There are plenty of theories on this that you can read up on. I'm not going to give you the long end tail of it. But what you have to think about is the more that they hoard, the less that there is every cycle for more people to spend. So the fact that they got richer during the pandemic shows that we were already desperate enough to need their services in that regard. Yes, it's great entrepreneurship that you thought about an idea quick enough that it mattered when the world was shut down. But now we're talking about a full-on thought process and how we're supposed to think about things in a way that makes us feel comfortable and makes us feel good. That's not happening. It's just not happening. I'm sorry. Sorry you got to feel it this way. Sorry you got to learn it that way. But we're just not in a position in this world, in this city, in our cities, in our states, in our country, to ever think that that's the way we should be thinking about economics.
And eating.
And you got to go to the bathroom sometime. You got to scratch that out.
So
all it is work, sleep. If you work and sleep, how do you consume the content or how do you consume the products that people are making? You can't. That's obvious. That's clear and present obvious. But we're crazy for thinking, oh, maybe people do deserve basic forms of living. You get the money back. I give you $3,000. You're going to spend it on corporations and they're going to get that money back. So give up your profits and make more money. Wow. Couldn't have seen that coming.
So you sleep 7 hours a night and just stay at work.
Yeah, I don't actually think you have to put a lot of energy in to build anything.
Yes.
But if you're doing it right, we talk a lot about conscious capitalism is about higher purpose. If you have a purpose that's animating you, it doesn't feel like work, it feels like play. It also attracts people to you that share that same purpose.
This is something that I find very frustrating in people that don't recognize that it is incredibly difficult to build a successful business when they just want to tax the shit out of people and take all that money. Do you think it's easy to make something like Whole Foods? Do you think it's easy to make a company like Tesla? Do you think it's not easy? It's an insanely difficult task. That's why most people don't do it.
Exactly.
But when someone does,
they glorify a really unhealthy work relationship too, like the rise and grind folk. Yeah. Personal experience, when I was working at a summer camp, it was the same job that I was working at as a school teacher, and they moved into a summer camp and they were like, hey, would you like to come on to this? We'd really like you to be a part of that community. And I was like, sure. And I had to get up at 8 a.m. and move to 6 p.m. And while I was making decent money from that in regards to that's a full-time wage at what I was making at $20 an hour, at the same time, it's what am I getting out of this where I feel like I'm putting my effort into really cultivating a great culture for children? Well, at the same time, it takes me an hour to get back home from doing that, and it takes me an hour to get there. That's leaving me, let's say I get off of work at 6, I get home, if I want to have fun outside or whatever, I can't do that because I get home at 7. 7 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So go back to 7 because it takes me an hour, and I got to wake up an hour early to be able to eat breakfast and do whatever. That gives me... Wow, my math is really fucking dying today. 11. That gives me 11 hours. 8 of those are supposed to be for sleep, so that gives me 3 hours. 3 hours to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I can't even do that. Where am I going? If I go too far out, I'm not getting enough sleep for the next night. If I don't go, I'm getting barely enough time to even be able to stream, which means I don't get enough time to create my own means of production. So if you're working, you clearly can't participate in a capitalist society. I've said the thing. This is going to launch me into a whole other point. If you're working, you cannot participate in the means of creating because you don't have enough time to build on it enough to be able to say, all right, I'm going to monetize this. You have to quit the job. If you quit the job, you lose your money. You lose your health insurance. You lose a whole bunch of other shit. Just basically financial security. So if you're losing all of this, in a way that you can't even begin to form an opinion or thought where you're going to make it. I've had jobs where they wouldn't even want me having any free time in between shifts besides the legally required 8 so you can sleep if you manage to teleport home. Yeah. 8 hours to work if you travel an hour between each. And what are you supposed to do in your free time? Consume other people's shit. So while at the same time you're telling me that we're supposed to be productive members of capitalist society, you're also telling me there's no way in earth that you're going to manage to be able to have enough time to do that unless you either neglect sleep, neglect eating, or neglect your personal health. And in a world where we're living off of the phone and social media and likes and I want to produce this, that, and the other, how are you expected to survive? How on earth are you suspected to survive? But Lord have it from me if I tell you this and then at the same point say, wait, bring up the fact that they had parents who had enough wealth to allow them to be jobless to do those things. Yeah, 100%. Hey, appreciate that. Thank you for the raid. Appreciate the raid. We love you here. If you're new to the channel, oh God, I hate that. I hate that notification. If you're new to the channel and you're just here and you're figuring out what's going on, if you're a fan of some people like Hassan, or you're a fan of people like Vosh, welcome to the stream. It literally does not hurt to hit the follow button. A couple of follows goes a long way. Oh, and then if you're even bigger, I can't do this as often as I can. Thank you for the raid. We appreciate you. We like to talk about life issues, poetry, and politics here. We like to do it with a little taste of humanity. So I'm not going to throw a bunch of political speak at you and expect you to understand it. I talk like the real man. I'm the little guy. I really should have this as my as my thing here. But not Family Guy. Oh God.
So I could watch cartoons. On the hill. Man.
The man on the
Not quartering soldiers.
This is
As long
me.
as I don't have to change in front
If
of
you're
them.
new, you're trying to
It's the
figure it out.
spirit of free speech. It's the fundamental freedom that thousands of men have given their lives for.
Hang a left here and rip it. Attention. You are conducting a broadcast in direct violation of FCC Rule 27. Pull over.
I'm not going down without a fight. I'm the voice of the little man. The man on the girder. The man on the streets. The man that fights the man.
Oh my God, you're Kid Charlemagne!
That's me. Don't ask me why I didn't change my name to Kid Charlemagne. But basically, back to what we were talking about. Yeah, no. People who have jobs who are able to afford to be jobless. Like, that's a whole other conversation on top of it. Can you afford to not have to work? Can you afford to get fired? Many people are stuck at the jobs that they're in right now because they can't afford it. They cannot afford the instability of where's my next paycheck coming from? Where's this coming from? Where's that coming from? Maybe just in fact, we need to be able to say to ourselves, hey, hey, this is bad. Let's not do this. This is bad. Let's take care of people's needs. But they refuse to do that. They refuse to do that ever. Because that's just the way they are. That's just the way they are. And it sucks. It really does suck. Again, if you're new to the stream and you don't know what to do, or you're trying to figure out how to fit in this community, it's absolutely fine. We do play some games here. We do talk about life issues. Do me a favor and hit that follow button. It costs absolutely nothing, and you never have to check out the stream again, but you will follow. And at least at some point or another, you'll know that somebody was out there to care for you.
Does do it, and they have become successful, then other people start looking at it and go, well, they have all this money. They should contribute more, or they should do this. Or, you're talking about some people have suggested some extraordinary tax.
Again, don't ask what's in the cup.
Rates in order to get us out of this current recession. And then I talk to business people, and they say that is the exact wrong approach, because that's actually going to stifle business, and business is the only thing that's going to bring us out of this. If you incentivize businesses to take risks and to be open and to make more profits, then more people are going to get jobs, then the economy bounces back. But if you give them a gigantic tax burden, they're going to be less likely to take chances. They're not going to be able to survive. And people on the outside who've never built a business like Whole Foods, they don't seem to see that.
They don't see it. The reality is that people like an Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they're good capital allocators, so to speak. They're
literally slave owners. I hate to say it that way, but he just made an allegory for it. Literal slave owners. That's what he's allegorying towards. Literal slave owners who refuse to look at their own capital and wealth and say at some point or another, hey, I'm exploiting people I'm giving them, how much money I got in my pocket? I'm giving them 50 cents and I'm taking from them $3. As long as that 50 cents gets them an apartment and maybe some food, maybe I'll throw them a discount here or there, they'll be fine. But I'm taking that $2.50 of profit from their work, plus the profits of what they tell people to buy, what they help people to buy, what I get shoppers to get, all the money all of that, and they suck up those profits.
We're not going to waste that money. That money's going to be reinvested to create new and more dynamic businesses that will help, the innovations will help our society.
But how many people can own a business and how many people can consume a business? I said that just earlier in this stream. How many people can consume and how many people can start? If everybody started a business, nobody would be there to patronize said business. You need consumers. And in order for consumers to consume, they either have to work at another business, helping create more wealth for other people, or at the same point, there would need to be a level of amount of care that people would need to be able to take care of their basic needs so they can go out and consume. You cannot have a society going both ways on this. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. You go take an economics class, and it's literally about exploitation. And it's about moral exploitation, which I'm not going to get into in today's stream because that's a stream that I want to spend 8 hours doing. Ladies and gentlemen, it is about 2 hours into the stream. If you don't know, there's a button up there that says something about the critical function overload. If you'd like to meet the person that will come out when that critical function overload actually reaches 100%, please do me a favor and hit the follow button. It costs nothing to do. And you get the cool emote that actually, I think, insults you, but also congratulates you as you hit the follow button. Trust me, it'll all be worth it. If you want a true look into humanity and how we deal with today's issues from the standpoint of somebody you've never met, I promise you, take a look at the stream and hit the follow button. It's very well appreciated.
Move forward. When you just redistribute that money, there's no more additional innovation. It's being consumed.
Oh my God, he said it, and I just explained why he was wrong before he said it. I hate that. I predict it all the time. He said it, and he's wrong. Because okay, let's get super personal. Let's get real fucking personal. I am a content creator who lost his job due to COVID. Would I be creating content as much if I was consistently worried about where my money was coming from? I'm glad and proud to have saved up enough money to be able to do this and not worry about paying rent for the next year, let's say. But even then, isn't it weird? That's not weird to you that like I had to save up enough to be creative? And that's personal. I'm telling you my literal finances. That's personal. I was able to save up enough and I was able to say, all right, I know I want to do this with my life. So here's what I'm going to do with it. You can't do that in a society that pre-COVID. And when we get post-COVID, what are we going to say? Oh, all those people need to find jobs. So I guess I'm not streaming anymore. But what about the people that like my content? What if I'm inspiring the next generation to say, yeah, I want to do that because I have opinions and I think they deserve to be heard? Like, you're not making an argument. You're being a CEO who's being a dickhead to the people who literally fund your business. I'm just mad at the world, man. I'm just mad at the world. It is top of the hour. There are no ads on this, so please do me a favor and hit the follow button if you're new to the stream. If you like what I have to say, hit that YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter and hit a follow. I'm absolutely way more funnier than I am on stream. And we upload daily content from the stream, so if you missed something and you want a clarification on it, please do me a favor. Subscribe to the YouTube. All the links are there. If you feel generous enough to throw a donation my way, that'd be awesome as well, because that makes me feel like I'm actually doing something worth monetizing. But if you're saying I'm too poor and you just talked about how money's short and I can't do anything to support you, share the stream with somebody who you think would actually like it, agree, or even disagree. I love having the MAGA chud heads come in here. We'll talk about that at the end of the stream. I uploaded a video talking about Candace Owens and it got 13 dislikes. And I was like, that's weird, because I just started that YouTube channel like a couple weeks ago and it's not even drawing in enough traffic to get that many dislikes. But you know, MAGA gonna MAGA, grifters gonna grift.
This whole idea that it's consumption that drives the economy is fundamentally a myth.
Consumption doesn't drive the economy? Do we not live in a capitalist society? I gotta love the way he's gonna bail out of this one.
It's mostly creativity and innovation that drives the economy. So we need to keep that money in the hands of our most creative people, which are entrepreneurs, creative business people. And for some reason, I think because of envy, it seems so unfair. Again, we're in a win-lose model. If Jeff Bezos has $150 billion, then that's unfair. In some sort of cosmic way, that's unfair. And they believe that somehow or another others have less. So there's like this fixed pie, and Jeff took a big piece of it.
Wow, he used the pie. He used my analogy, the pie. And somehow that's unfair. Bro, it's not unfair that you took a huge piece of the pie. It's unfair that you refused to bake another one. That's what I'm saying. It's unfair that you choose to bake. You are not choosing to bake another pie.
Or Elon Musk has taken a big piece of it. But it's not a fixed pie. That's the wrong metaphor. Innovationism is continually growing the pie. And in fact, humanity is demonstrably better off because of the capitalists, because of the innovationists.
Let me play devil's advocate, because this is the way they look at it. They would say, well, when you get to that sort of a position, like a Jeff Bezos, where you have $150 billion, you can exert your influence on people in a way that's detrimental to society. You've achieved too high of a position.
Ladies and gentlemen, I must also remind you, that if you're new to the channel and you're checking out the content, please don't be afraid to drop a word or two in the stream chat. This channel does not exist without the people. We are here for you. I am not here for me. I'm not here to hear myself talk. I'm here to be wrong. I'm here to be righted. I'm here to hear other opinions and actually discuss them. So if you're new to it and you find this channel and you're like, well, I kind of agree with the points that you're making, but I have a friend of mine who needs to hear it or has a better view on things and would probably be able to be better spoken on it and would give you a viewpoint that you probably never thought of. Invite them to the stream. Allow them to argue in the chat. It makes the VODs way better.
You have too much power, and you will probably use that power to loosen regulations, to bribe politicians or influence politicians, and to get laws passed that are better for your business and stifle competition.
I think that's a powerful argument, and if and when it happens, you have to push back against. You have to resist it. I think most business people are not doing that. I don't see that Jeff's trying to pass, I don't see Jeff trying to pass laws that
I don't think
favor
he is
Amazon.
either. I'm not saying he is. If he was, boy, would they come after him.
Yeah,
because he's balling so hard. They'd be like, that motherfucker, doesn't have enough.
But I know that when Whole Foods we were a public company for 25 years, and we had the government go after us a few times. They tried to stop we tried to make an acquisition of a company called Wild Oats back in 2007. We actually made the acquisition, but the FTC tried to stop it. We ended up going into court with them, and we actually won in court. And very interesting, the FTC has their own court. And after we won in the federal courts, they said, well, now we want to take you into our court, the administrative court.
Terrific. They have their own court?
They have their own court.
Don't you wish you had your own court? Take you to Whole Foods court, motherfucker.
I'll take the FTC to the Whole Foods court.
Right?
But,
like the people's court.
You don't win in the FTC court. You don't win in that court. So,
well, how many people have won in that court?
I think when I looked at it at that time, this back in 2007, I think 46 of the 48 previous cases, this is from memory, so I could be wrong, had lost.
They should go to court.
So
someone should take them to court.
But here's the thing. I asked our attorney, so, okay, we're going to lose in their court. Then what happens? He says, well, then you appeal that back to the federal courts. And then after that, if they want to, they would go to the Supreme Court if they'll take it. I said, how much is it going to cost me to just fight them in their own courts? They said, it's going to cost you $30 million in legal fees, not to mention a lot of executive time. It's like, man, $30 million, and we know we're going to lose. And then we're going to have to spend another $30 million to go to the appeals of beyond that. The lawyers love it, by the way.
Of course.
They want you to do it.
Like divorce lawyers.
Yes, exactly.
They love it.
Let's have people fight.
You guys should not talk. Don't talk this
Don't
out.
try to work this out, because he's going to try to steal your
mediation.
money. He's going to try to steal that money
He's
from you.
He's a piece of shit. Look at him. Look at him.
So again,
so what did you do? You wound up settling?
We ended up, they let the merger go through, and we agreed to sell off a bunch of stores.
Oh.
And that was the best we could do.
How many stores did you have to sell off?
We put up about 30 for sale.
We
only about I don't know, I think 5 or 6. We sold about 5 or 6.
Episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience are...
Yeah, but you still stole into my neighborhood, and you still was able to make like a bunch of bank off of the misery and the literal pain of what a lot of people were doing. Like, nah, you don't have my sympathy there. You really don't have my sympathy there, and you're never gonna get my sympathy. Sorry, but basically all I hear is survive. Yeah, so if you didn't hear already, Parler is already getting like hit by the alleged hack is a screenshot from WordPress website that circular PS 6 months by Parler responsible for WordPress. All of our databases are hidden behind multiple layers of security and are accessible for the web. This is an irresponsible human which uses a techie-looking WordPress config file who's only capable of confusing a journalistic hack, not an actual hacker. If Twitter continues to fact-check others, they should also fact-check posts such as this to provide misinformation. Yeah, they had a WordPress integration. Fucking lying, like... fucking lying. This claim has been disputed by some guy with a monk beard and a nose. Yeah, it's horrible, man. It's horrible how we think, how they feel, how, like,